Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Pietrandrea Huff from After Alcohol Free Magazine, and I'm here today with Anika Sawni from Grüvi Alcohol Free Beverages for our spring 2025 cover. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yes, I'm excited to chat today.
Me too. Thank you. So, Annika, you are the co founder of Grüvi Alcohol Free Beverages, and you were named Forbes's 30 Under 30 in 2022. I know there's a story behind all of this, and I'd love to get into the whole thing about you. How did this come about? And then where are you going from here? So, do you want to tell us your story?
Yeah, let's dive right in. So we launched Grüvi, myself and my brother Nikki, who is 5 years older than me, in 2019. I was fresh out of university, had just graduated with a neuroscience slash psych degree from McGill, and for a period thought that I was going to be a neurosurgeon or something down that path. But then did a 180 pivot in launching Grüvi, really out of a personal need for both Nikki and I. We started to, in our own ways, explore our relationship with alcohol. For me, it was really rooted in my last year of university, and McGill very much has a work hard, party hard type of culture. I was really focused on school and my grades to apply to med school. I was like, wait a second, like, why is our drinking culture so normalized? And it was a very mindless action for me. If I was going out, going to a restaurant, there was just going to be drinks, and that is what it was, right? I didn't question it. I didn't ask myself, hey, do I want to drink? Hey, how do I feel after I'm drinking? And so it was really in that last year that I leaned into that term sober curiosity and started to question that relationship with alcohol. And what I noticed is a plethora of benefits that came with that, right? For me, like the biggest benefit was really just more moments of joy and just being able to be more present in life, right? And as I discovered that, I started to explore non-alcoholic options. And 6 years ago, in 2019, there was very few options to choose from. And so I realized the biggest barrier for me to actually create that habit, to make that transition to a less alcohol-centric lifestyle, was having a delicious, equally fun option to choose from. Otherwise, I would go out to the bar and the restaurant, and your choices were water or, a sparkling juice. And I'd go, okay, fine, I'll have the cocktail because that's more exciting and fun. And if I didn't really want it, I think it just was a natural need. Nikki and I just saw this opportunity to create something completely different that existed at the time. And, maybe we'll get into this, but the name Grüvi, like we really wanted to create a brand that was fun and full of life and energy. And of course, something that actually tasted good as well. So, yeah, we didn't overthink it. We just kind of jumped head first and haven't looked back since.
I love that. I love that you took this leap. I mean, at that time in 2019, there weren't a lot of brands quite yet. You were a little bit ahead of the curve. Did you see a trend coming or you knew what you wanted and took that
I
leap?
I think it was a mix. I think at that time it was the first steps into the category. What existed was a lot of the big players had a non-alcoholic option that has been around for a long time, but it was always an afterthought. They didn't really put much love and energy into that. But, Nikki and I knew that as someone that put our health forward in many other ways in our life, and we were exploring this relationship that many others would. However,
Mm.
the market was not nearly as developed. People did not see, the need. We really bootstrapped and were knocking on doors to get people to carry Grüvi, and you would be laughed out of bars and restaurants countless times at the beginning, which I think is almost a rarity now today.
Right. We've come a long way in a short time. So
Hmm.
I relate to this. And I think your message for someone who's much closer to college than I am, like to that experience, to be true to yourself in that situation is unique and also inspiring. I remember it was a very long time ago, but no one questioned it back then either. And it was just everybody does it. It was not talked about at all.
Yeah,
Um, did it feel scary in that moment before people were talking about this?
for sure. And I
Yeah.
think I definitely felt almost like, yeah, am I going to be judged by my friends in my circle if I lean into this? And I think the biggest thing is when you make that transition to drinking less, you're saying, I'm not drinking at all tonight. I found that people were concerned that I wouldn't be able to have fun, that I wouldn't be able to enjoy
Mm.
the night. Like my closest friends, like they're there and they're there to support me, but their worry was, oh, but like we want you to have fun. And I was like, Yeah, you don't got to worry about me. I'm gonna enjoy my time. I'm gonna still dance and I'm gonna be silly and I'm gonna have that same experience. So I found that that was something that was like in my close circle of friends. And yeah, that last years of university, I don't think a lot of people were tapping into that. But now in the 2, 3 years post university, I see a lot of my friends coming to me like, yeah, Groovy has been so great to have as an option. And I think for me, I also didn't go like cold turkey. It was a gradual process for me to stop drinking. And now I haven't drinking in 3 years, but there was 2 years where I was drinking less and less. And then I think for me, the pandemic was kind of
Mm.
crucial because I was very much a social drinker. And so COVID removed that aspect of it.
Hmm.
I wasn't going out to a bar, restaurant, or anything with friends. And I was able to kind of double down on my intention and my reasoning for not wanting to drink and get comfort and confidence around that decision that when the world opened back up after COVID, I felt really stronger in that decision and was able to make that choice in a more confident setting as well.
That was a good time for the hard reset. You take
Yeah.
away all the
Yeah.
social and then you don't have all the pressure. And yeah, I stopped drinking in 2020 as well. And I relate to everything you're saying, but for me, it was like Christmas was coming. So it was early December. And I was like, I need a red wine for dinner. Like I was just like focused on finding an alcohol-free red wine for dinner so I wouldn't feel left out. In my mind, that felt left out.
If we actually look at like reasons why people are choosing non-alcoholic beverages, there's kind of three key reasons, right? And so first and foremost is that they want that experience and flavor profile, right? And that's where adult non-alcoholic beverages come in to play versus a kombucha or something else along those lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then second is for health reasons, right? They're putting their health forward, they're trying to live a healthier lifestyle, and all of those things lead to drinking less. And then that last reason is your point of inclusion and wanting to have that same experience, feel included, not have like FOMO of missing out on anything. And so as a brand, we really position Grüvi on leaning into like number one and number three. So, taste first and foremost, we've really improved and iterated year over year, constantly tweaking our recipes and launching new batches to really get to that high standard that we're trying to get to. And then that last point is being the brand that can lean into that social setting, that can be paired with your dinner, that can be paired with a concert that you're going to. We think that the health aspect is going to come naturally, and there's a lot of brands in this
Mm-hmm.
space that are really leaning into being a hyper health product. But that's not Groovy. We're here to be fun. We're here to be paired with your social occasions and settings and allow you to feel included. And so, again, for that reason, is having that breadth of choice and variety. And so that through line of choice, I think, is in both the options that you have, but in choosing the life that you want to live as well.
Mm-hmm. People frequently say, of course, all the health conscious people are your advertisers and your readers. And I'm like, well, the health part does come naturally when you cut down on alcohol, but it's not necessarily that. It's like people who are trying to live their best lives and feel better than they have been feeling. And they're just trying to be their best self. So you and your brother came up with this idea. And how did you actually launch this business? What did it take for you to get to where you are?
So Nikki and I are first off, we're Canadian. We grew up north of Toronto, but we actually launched Grüvi in Denver, and that was inspired by a few different things. One, the Canadian market wasn't developed. It was very early in the days. The Canadian market's unique in that you only have a handful of national grocery stores and you have liquor LCBO through the government. And they didn't understand or see a need for non-alcoholic. So we were like, okay, well, we're not going to sit around and wait. We believe in it really strongly. So it's a full family affair in the sense I started it with my brother, but we involved our parents. We actually pulled them out of retirement to come help us launch Groovy. And my boyfriend, who I met in university, he was also figuring out what he wanted to do. So he also came in and helped us kick off. And so we pretty much packed up our car, our lives, our dog, and drove across the country to Denver to launch Groovy. And we chose Denver for a few different reasons, but the main one being that is a craft beer mecca. and kind of a consumer that's healthful, that's outdoors, that's adventurous. And so we felt like those two things really fit the need for a non-alcoholic beer or beverage. And so we got a house all together in Denver. It was the first time in 10 years after going to university and everything. We're all back in the same house. We would have our morning meetings. We would set up, be at the table, be like, okay, how many Groovies are we going to go sell today? We'd all take our car, pack it with Groovy, knock on as many doors as possible, and come back at the end of the day and debrief. And that was really what our first summer looked like out in Denver, was the whole family back together in what we call our little Groovy frat house. And it was a really fun experience to kick off the brand that way. It was just about getting it out there, getting feedback, not trying to be perfect before we launch, because I think that that sometimes can hold us back. And so, yeah, it was just very organic in that sense, and true startup roots of knocking on doors, doing every farmer's market that we possibly could, and spending our entire summer doing that.
I love this. I'm going to show this video to my kids and so that they maybe someday they'll do that and involve me. Cause I love
There
this,
you
like the
go.
family home and the meetings every morning. I mean, that's amazing. And choosing a cool place to live based on market research. That's really fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think those roots and how you began inspired the culture of the company, and how did that carry forward?
For sure. I think, and well, my parents, they were willing to help out for 1 year, and now
Mm.
it's been 5 years and they're still fully involved with the business. But we've always just kind of taken that same family essence and how we're growing in the culture and the team that we're building, and really taking everyone in as a family member. And I think that that's given a really unique culture to Groovy, and embracing that ability to be a little vulnerable with your team and kind of push each other to grow from that sense. So it's been cool. I think the hardest thing for me as a founder is that Groovy and family are so always integrated. And so you sometimes have to be really intentional of like, okay, like this is date night, not Groovy date night tonight, right? Um, so yeah,
Every day is Groovy Day in the Sawni family.
it is. It
that's
really is.
that's amazing. What a cool story. So you developed this product line. So how did that play out?
So, Nikki and I didn't come from a background of beverage or brewing beer or making wine. So, it was a massive learning curve for us. And we really had to work and find partners to develop these recipes with us, which was one of the hardest things, because taste is so subjective. And what you find as a good red wine might not be my style of a red wine, right? And so, we had a lot of learning throughout that. It's been really cool over the years to see how far we've come in terms of our products and our innovation. We always knew we wanted to create kind of staples of the alcoholic versions, but done really well in a
Mm.
non-alcoholic style. And Grüvi is one of the only brands that offers both non-alcoholic beers and wines. We have sparkling wines, still wines, and we just launched our sangria, which is kind of the first ready to drink. But from the get-go, we had beer and wine as our offerings. And that was a very intentional decision for us, because we wanted people to have a different option in different moments, whatever they were craving. As an alcoholic drinker, you don't just drink one thing and that's all you drink, right? It's about
Right.
having a choice. And again, I felt in the non-alcoholic space, it was very limited in what you were able to choose from back then. So I wanted the same person to feel empowered to grab the Grüvi Prosecco as they were to grab the Grüvi Golden in different scenarios and settings.
I feel like choice and inclusiveness are two words that come up a lot. And especially more recently, I feel like it's the driving force behind things. What do you hear from people when you talk to them about them?
Our vision is to create a world where choosing non-alcoholic options and making a non-alcoholic choice is not only normalized, but it's celebrated, right?
Mhm.
And that it really coexists in all of the settings that we're in the world. So, as a brand that's leaning into social occasions and social settings, we're really doubling down on that this year.
I love that that's part of your rebrand.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about the whole rebrand?
Yeah, so the rebrand has been a really exciting project that I've led over almost 2 years before
Mhm.
launching in December 2024. The essence of Groovy has always been there, but we really wanted to bring that to life further. We have a new logo, and it's this combination that's fun and playful with our kind of groove in you, but also it's bold and it's elevated. And we really wanted to communicate that quality and taste piece too. You want to be fun, you want to be playful, but we also really are focused on quality.
Mhm.
And Grüvi is also really about being accessible. All of our products are single serve, especially all of our wines. And it was an intentional decision that we made to help people transition to drinking less. And for me, a 750 ml bottle created a bit of a barrier, right? Because if I just wanted one glass to myself, I might not be inclined to open a whole bottle to pour myself that one glass and then I go, oh, I'll save it for friends or this or that. And so we wanted to be like, I'm craving it, I'm going to reach for it and just enjoy that ritual or that experience as well. And then also tapping into like the bars, the restaurants, those social settings, again, having single serve really leans into those venues and avenues as well.
I love single serve alcohol free products. um, your single serve wines won our survey for the first 2 years. I think it was the rosé. There it is now. People love it. And when we met at Mindful Drinking Fest this past January, you were taste testing new formulations. So how did that go?
I'll dive into something that we did really unique at Grüvi, which is called our Discovery Series, leaning into being a little bit authentic and vulnerable to who we are, not experts in the space in terms of wine and beer. We're like, let's build this company with our community. And so when we were developing new product lineups, we would do a small batch and we would launch it online, limited edition, and have a QR code front and center on the bottle or the can. And that QR code would lead to direct feedback for our community. What did you like? What didn't you like? What would you change? And every day we're getting pinged like, someone gave a survey, someone gave a survey. And we would iterate on batches and batches. So right now, as we launch the rebrand, this red wine was on its fifth or sixth version that we've been tweaking time and time again. So what you tasted at the Mindful Drinking Fest was a new iteration and involvement of our sparkling wines, which again, they've been around for a long time. They've been staples, they've been fan favorites, but we also saw that, where the category was going and what people were really looking for. And so we iterated on a new version that's a de-alkalized version of our original sparkling wines. And again, just kind of taking it with curiosity and a data approach to get as much feedback as possible and then kind of see what people gravitate towards, what they prefer, and make our business decisions around that. So to me, it's been really cool because taste is so subjective, but we've spent time building that to get, research and community that says this is really good, go this direction, right? So that's been a really fun piece, and that was the sparkling wines that we are testing right now. But as we launch the whole rebrand, everything has a QR code on it, and we're always reading feedback, good, bad, ugly, groovy, whatever it is.
That's very cool. I like this community forward development. So where do you see Grüvi and yourself going from here?
I'm actually really excited for 2025 as a whole for the rest of this year. It's been super fun, especially in our home state of Colorado, to really tap into the key venues. We're in Empower Field, where the Broncos are playing. We're at Ball Arena. We're at Fiddler's Amphitheater. And so, again, being the brand that can really lean into that and have choices in those scenarios as well, right? So I really see that. But I think that that's been really cool to see the growth of retailers and bars and restaurants actually dedicating time and effort into helping build this category. The first years are really spent building the category as a whole versus your brand. And I think now we're really at the point where we can double down on building the brand and getting it out there more and being a part of kind of those moments of joy for people.
It is amazing to see 5 or 6 years ago, no one was talking about it. The bars didn't care. And it really has changed due to efforts like yours. Do you want to talk a little bit about leadership? I know you're passionate about leadership topics and women's leadership. So how has that played out in your life, in your business? And what are you passionate about when it comes to that?
It's funny you bring up the Forbes 30 under 30, and I think that every time someone mentions it, I'm like, did that actually happen?
It's really amazing.
I was really at a point, and that happened pretty early, I would say. So now it's almost been 3 years since I was on that list, and I had no expectation. I actually found out by getting an email from a partner like, hey, congrats, I saw you on the list. And I was like, wait, what? I think Forbes got to accidentally forgot to email me the news. And so I had to go scroll the list myself and see my name on there. But it's really pushed me outside of my comfort zone because I think until that point, I was so doubled down on growing the business that I forgot kind of the power of community and leaning into support in building a business as well and trying to think, oh, I need to do this all myself. And so now that I've had some opportunities to be able to speak about what it is to build a business and what some of those struggles are and what some of my tips would be, I really honed into this idea of, well, fear, essentially, I think is the biggest thing that can hold us back in life in general, right? And the power is really to start to get comfortable with fear. This whole journey for me has been something completely unknown. Like I said, I thought I was headed to medical school, and I think doing it at a young age also pushes you outside of your comfort zone because everyone around you has more experience. So getting comfortable with fear and not getting in my own way to hold myself back because I'm scared to do something or because I'm not confident about it, for me has been the biggest learning, I think. And ultimately, what I've learned is vulnerability and being okay to be vulnerable is an antidote to fear and it allows you to move through it. There's been countless scenarios throughout Grüvi where that's showed up and it's proven itself to be true. So that's something that I find really important as I talk to young female entrepreneurs.
Mm,
That I kind of encourage them to not get in your own way, never be the one to say no to yourself, and to embrace being vulnerable. And I think we're seeing more and more that when we look at things like social media, it's like the content that people gravitate towards are scenarios in which people are willing to be vulnerable, willing to be authentic, not be so polished, not be so, here's the front of the business, but show us the story of it, right? Um,
hmm.
so I can give you a little funny story, a real life scenario if you want.
Sure.
This was like Christmas 2021 or something along those lines. And we just launched our first batch of the Grüvi Red Blend. And we did a full marketing push, put it out there, and trucks were going, orders were placed just in time for the holidays. And then we realized that we overfilled these red wine cans. And essentially, when you opened your Grüvi red wine, it would like pour over, it would spray red wine.
Oh no.
And we were like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do? And your brain's all like, okay, like this is gonna be really bad. We're gonna have to recall a ton of product that we just produced, and this is gonna be detrimental for the business. But we had to really put those feelings aside and decided to just be super transparent, super vulnerable, literally recorded a video like, hey guys, we messed up. This is not our standard at Grüvi. We do not want you to have red wine spraying all over your clothes on Christmas Eve. That's the last thing that we want. So we're going to ask everyone to, recall this slash throw it out, and we can refund you today. Or if you're willing to wait, we're going to be making a new batch. It's going to probably take 6 to 8 weeks, but when we have it, we'll send it to you right away. So if you're willing to wait, that would also be much appreciated. And obviously, I'm thinking everyone's going to want a refund. But 85% of these customers said, no, we're okay. We're willing to wait for 6 to 8 weeks for this next batch to come. And we were getting email replies of, we're so sorry. We're here for you. We understand. Just so much support. And I think had we not, one, spent time building that community before and
Hmm.
being transparent along the whole journey, and then two, being vulnerable in this scenario and kind of sharing what happened and how we messed up, we were met with like love and compassion from our community versus, hey, thank you, this sucks, moving on to the next one, right? And so I
Right.
think that was just like a really special, heartfelt moment for me to be like, wow, you let your guard down and people are willing to still be there with you is really special.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful story. And my next question before you started the story was going to be like, what are some challenges you've faced? This was like a
Yeah.
Brene Brown primer.
Yes, yes.
um, it's so important, and it goes along with what so many people I've talked to who stopped drinking say, which is that you can be your more authentic self and you can learn to be more vulnerable.
Yeah, the whole experience of not drinking And showing up in a setting and choosing not to drink is a very vulnerable setting, right? And
Mm,
but then there's so much power and real like joy that you can find through that and through embracing being vulnerable. And, one of our slogans at Grüvi too is your kind of joy, your kind of way. Ultimately, the inspiration behind Grüvi was we found more moments of joy when we were drinking less,
mhm,
and we wanted people to find that too in their own way. So for us, it's really like it doesn't matter whether you're sober curious or damp for the day or never ever, but like there's a choice, right? The path that I'm taking and the path that we're taking at Grüvi is we want non-alcoholic to be mainstream. So I think sometimes it's easier to position it as this choice and this exciting and full of fun, lively option rather than hating or putting a negative stigma on alcohol. Um,
mhm.
because that closes people in and that creates judgment versus openness and like, hey, it's just here's what I'm craving today and I'm going to choose that rather than why are you drinking, alcohol? It's not good for you or whatever, right? So just
Right.
really removing that judgment so people feel free to make that choice for themselves.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean the government advisory that came out this year is helpful. It's helpful in educating people, but also it's really about adding more choice, not taking away
Yeah.
choice. Yeah. So we end every interview with the question, which is we believe the best life begins after saying goodbye to alcohol. How would you characterize your after?
Oh, I love that. That's really nice. Um, I think it's really basic for me. I think it is about being able to be present in the life that I want to live and show up as who I kind of strive to be. And I think with alcohol, I would have never been able to continue to grow in that same way.
That's amazing. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for doing our amazing photo shoot. I can't wait to share that on our spring magazine. And it was so great talking to you.
Yes, thanks so much.